Hello and welcome to the Faces of Family Business. My name is Darren McDowell from Harbinson Mulholland Chartered Accountants.
And my name is Ian Smyth from Ulster University, and we're so excited to bring this series to you.
And together we co-founded the Northern Ireland Family Business Forum around 7 years ago as a network organisation to elevate the family business sector. And in 2023 we created an exhibition of images and artefacts directly from the family businesses themselves in order to tell their visual history in a different and engaging way.
Absolutely. And we just felt these stories were too good not to share. And our heart behind this series is to shine a light on some of the best Indigenous family firms from right here in Northern Ireland.
And we really hope that you enjoy this series.
Hello and welcome to the first episode in the Faces of Family Business series. Now, if you're like me and you love your ice cream, there's one name that's synonymous with that here in Northern Ireland, and that is Morelli's. We are absolutely delighted to have with us today Mr. Morelli himself, Uncle Nino, and his niece Daniela. You're both more than welcome. First of all, this series is all about family businesses, and you're a primary example of that. Why do you think family businesses form such an important part of the economy?
For me, I guess because of my experience with any family businesses, they're also passionate about their business, and that's the backbone here, and I think that's why that we're so successful.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think that tourism is such an important thing in the country, and we certainly help towards that development. And the other thing we were very good at was training young staff in their first jobs. Being a seaside resort, in the older days we used to open about Easter time, so we had new staff coming in all the time. A lot of people that never worked before ended up staying with us a long time.
Yeah. So you must be doing something right then.
Something right.
Absolutely. You've got such a rich history in your family business. You've got awards here, you're award winning, and you're a go-to destination on the North Coast. You go to the Giant's Causeway, you also go to Morelli's, but your first cafe opened in 1911, isn't that correct? What are some of the highlights of your history, if you wouldn't mind sharing with me?
Well, my history began a bit later because I was in Italy when I was very young, and I was 14 years old when I came back, and my father was very concerned that we didn't speak English anymore. We were sent to Italy when we were only 5 to learn the language. The war came and we were stuck there. So when I came back in 1946, catering was something I was just thrown into right away. I mean, even though we went to school to learn the language again, we had to work during the summer. I didn't like that idea, mind you. But catering, to me, seemed a fantastic job to get into. I really enjoyed it. So much so that I would be behind the counter most of the time. I like to talk to people, and that's what helped me to learn the language.
Yeah.
So that would be my first highlight.
Absolutely. And Daniela, you're involved more in the manufacturing side of the business. What are some of your earliest memories or some of your highlights of of your involvement in the family business?
Well, probably like my cousins in Portstewart. We were all brought up in the shop as well. That's how we started off. Our family business was in Portrush. My first job, I was 9 years old, started off flipping burgers. Then when I was old enough to reach the ice cream counter, I started scooping and working the whipping machine and getting involved in everything where I shouldn't probably have been. They used to lock me in the freezer to keep me quiet sometimes. But a big highlight for me was probably our centenary in 2011, when we worked along with our cousins to celebrate our 100 years in business, basically. So we had a whole year's worth of events, culminating in a Guinness World Record, which we still hold. So
what's that record?
It's for the longest chain of people licking ice cream at the same time. And it was, I think, 2,700 and something people in Portstewart on the 23rd of July 2011.
Simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
Yeah, so
I must have missed the memo that day. I was clearly busy.
It took a lot of organising,
sure
and I'd probably never do it again, but it was definitely one to remember.
But what a way to celebrate your centenary.
Yeah,
Like, no
it's
better
good.
idea than having ice cream at the heart of it.
Yeah.
We know that if you're anything like my family, we know that families don't always get on. Has it always been plain sailing in either of your respective families? Has it all been harmony? Or actually, how can that family bond sometimes be the source of strength that helps get you through any difficult or challenging times? Nino?
Yeah, well, there was a point when we were getting close to getting married, and my father said, yeah, we have 3 businesses, so 3 sons, each one of you will get a business when you get married. So having worked mostly in Portrush when I was young, I liked Portrush. My second brother, Corrado, liked it as well. And he would be a lot stronger than me mentally. And he insisted that Portrush was going to be his shop. I said, why? I'm the eldest and I'm going to be married before you. I think it should be my shop. So anyway, there was a bit of attrition started there. And not to upset the family, I decided to back off.
Okay.
So I ended up in Coleraine. It wasn't what I wanted.
Sure.
But I accepted the situation as it was. And peace in the family.
Yeah. And is it, to you, Nino, then, is it more important to have family harmony then than any business decision?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. And it's always been the case.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always been together for many years, even though we're all each one of us has their own niche, their own separate business.
Absolutely. And Daniela, what about you in terms of you and your cousins? Again, has that always been plain sailing, or how do you draw on that bond that you so clearly have as a source of strength as well through difficult times? I mean, I hate to mention pandemic and recessions, we've come through a lot, and you have in your business over the last over 100 years, but how do you draw on that as a source of strength?
I guess for us, I mean, both my parents have passed away now, so it's me and my siblings that run our business, and there's 4 of us involved. We're all very different personalities, but I think that serves us well in a way. We all have our different departments, and we don't tend to stick our noses into that, and we come together and have meetings and discuss our different, what's going on with us separately, but we all have the end goal. The end goal is the same. So we have a plan in place, and basically we know what the end result should be, and
Absolutely.
we all work towards it. We don't get on all the time. It would be silly to say that we did. I mean, we do have the odd Barney, but we're getting better at separating work and personal life.
Do you mind me asking, because obviously strong Italian heritage, does that make your Barneys more spectacular than normal?
Yeah, we see my mother was Italian as well, so we've got it on both sides. Wow. So I'm quite calm, but when my buttons are pressed, I can explode. I have the Italian temperament sometimes, but
I'm sure that doesn't happen too often.
Not too often, no.
But just on that then as well, trust, obviously you must trust each other a lot to be able to allow everyone to look after their own area. Has that always been important? Has that always been the case, or how hard is that to keep keep trusting one another, to have each other's back and to do their own thing?
Well, so far it seems to have worked okay.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure about the next generation. That's my worry now, because I have two granddaughters who qualified out of Queen's, and they've got very good jobs.
Yeah.
Although they like catering, because they have to do it to learn something during the summer months. I can't see them working in our business much longer. So I'm a bit concerned about that side of the business.
Yeah. Maybe if you'd sent them to Ulster, they would have decided to come into the business, but we'll not dwell on that point. But just picking up on that, obviously succession is a huge issue for all family businesses, and you're all at that respective stage of what's next. How do you navigate those kind of conversations? How have you in the past, or will that be different to how you handle it in the future?
I guess it's just nurturing their interest. For us, there's a number of different areas in our business that somebody can be interested in. For example, my nephew, my brother's eldest son, is in the production side of the business, so he's not a people person, so it suits his personality to be in the background. He has shown a flair for NPD, so he would be involved in those discussions if we're planning new flavours or getting entries ready for a competition. That's his niche, and that's what he's interested in. So he's just actually back from Cork. He did a recipe formulation course down there, so that's quite technical, and he's shown interest in that, and that would be following my dad's path. That's what his passion was. So it's nice that he's found what he's into, and that, I guess, it's just nurturing and encouraging them at the stage. But it is worrying. We're looking behind us and there's very few showing an interest. So yeah.
Big conversations to have then.
Yeah.
Bringing it to why we're here, or part of the reason that we're here, Morelli's was involved in the Faces of Family Business exhibition before Christmas. You were asked as part of that to choose 3 images that best represent your family business history. I know for some, and I know particularly for you, that wasn't an easy process narrowing it down.
No.
Daniela, how did you end up choosing the 3 images that you did, and talk to us about that?
I guess I wanted to choose images that encapsulated all the businesses within the Morelli name. Obviously, it started with our great uncle, and then our grandfather, and then the 3 brothers, and now us. So one of the pictures was a photograph that was taken as part of our centenary celebrations, which was Uncle Nino, my father Guido, and Uncle Corrado all licking ice cream cones in tuxedos. And I guess it was a brilliant photo, and we've used it a number of times. So that for us, growing up, it was always, we'd go over to Uncle Nino to see him in the shop in Portstewart, and Auntie Nan, and Uncle Corrado had an amusements. So great memories from growing up. And then my dad was just real passionate about ice cream, always was. So that photograph summed him up really well as well. The other photograph from Stone Row was back in 1911, so that was the original shop with Uncle Peter and his wife and some of the staff standing outside. So that's probably one of the oldest photographs that we have in the collection.
And then the next one was one celebrating winning an award.
Yeah, we won Champion of Champions for our vanilla ice cream, which is an extremely hard award to win because it's the whole of the UK and Ireland. So, and one of the biggest classes that's entered in the ice cream world. So, needless to say, we were thrilled with that. So we were delighted to put that photograph forward as well.
That's fantastic. And we also asked you to submit an artefact, and just to clarify, an artefact is a physical object that represents your history as well. And we have your awards with us today. We also have an espresso cup and an original silver ice cream server. How important are things like this as just a link to our past, to remind us of the rich history, or the rich history that you and the Morelli family have? What do you think, Nino?
It's very important, very important. And it's nice to be able to look back and the way things were. Things have changed quite a bit now, but we tend to be forward-looking. But I mean, generally speaking, the family has always gone on well. Yeah. We help each other out in ideas, and each one of us made our own ice cream, by the way, in each premises.
Oh, okay.
So when Guido, my younger brother, developed the factory in Coleraine, I knew he was very much into it. to develop that side of the business. So helpfully, we decided not to make our own ice cream anymore.
Was that hard for you to let go of that, or
It
were you happy to do it?
because I was enjoying it too. For example, I remember when I was in Coleraine at the beginning, after I got married. And I remember being the first in Northern Ireland, for sure, at selling flavours of ice cream. Before that, we only had vanilla. And there was a machine behind the counter, you know, like called a utility. You have to grab the ice cream with a spoon and bring it out.
Like a batch
Vertical freezer.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Then these other freezers come out. They're much more advanced, you know, batch freezers, and they're horizontal. So you open the door and the ice cream comes out like a sausage.
Oh yeah.
So it's just a development as it went on. We decided that to let Guido take care of all that side of it, and we buy our ice cream from them.
Yes, of course.
But we do actually make our own mix as far as the soft ice cream is concerned.
Yes.
So we have a little bit of production still inside the business.
And how have things, you mentioned times have changed, obviously, from when you started to now, incredible change of technology, everything. What are some of the challenges that you see currently or foresee going forward, both in production and also in catering?
Well, catering is becoming very difficult now because seemingly anybody who wants to open a business now, the first thing they think about is opening a coffee bar. So I think they're going to change Port Stewart, the name of Port Stewart, to Latte Town.
Because nearly every shop is a cafe.
There's 8 on one side of me and 7 on the other.
Yeah. Whereas you were one of the first on the promenade.
Initially, I remember that we would have probably been, there would have been 2 or 3 maximum on the promenade, you know. So that's a big change.
So competition's a big change. Danielle, what about you? What are some of the current challenges or challenges you foresee coming down the line perhaps?
Thankfully it's settled a little bit, but last 2023 was pricing for sure. I mean, everything, as with every industry, was going through the roof. Here is complicated sometimes because of supply issues. We hate having product out of stock for our customers, and that was a challenge last year. Thankfully it's settled a little bit this year, but a challenge is staffing for sure. We're very lucky in the factory. We've an extremely low turnover of staff, which we're really lucky in that respect. But in the retail end, it's getting really hard to get suitable people to work, people that want to work for a start. So I'm not sure what can be done about that, but something needs to be done for sure.
Access to talent is a challenge. Can I take you back to your family story? It would be very easy for a family business to use their story as some kind of slick, polished marketing campaign to draw people in. How do you ensure authenticity shines throughout that and you remain true to your family identity and values?
I'm my father's daughter, I think. I think his passion for the business shone through a lot and has been filtered down to us. We are very authentic in that we're still very aware of how hard our ancestors worked to make the business a success, particularly my grandmother, Anastasia. She was left alone when the war broke out. My grandfather was interned, so he was sent to the Isle of Man for a period of 6 years. So she single-handedly ran the business in his absence. And, you know, it takes a strong person with, like, at that time, probably very little English as well, to keep things going. So I guess there's a little bit of her in us all as well. We're all quite precious about the family business, really, and passionate about it as well. So I think we're authentic without realising. Yeah. And that's in us all somewhere.
That's incredible. And Nino, I'm sure you've plenty of stories to tell of your time in the business.
I had such an interesting life, I must say.
Yeah.
I used to have a habit of opening places.
Okay.
At one stage we had 9 takeaways. We concentrated on the fish and chips side of it. And we decided to call them Presto bars.
Okay.
So at one stage we had them as far as Banbridge. We had one in Banbridge, that's the furthest we went. Yeah. And unfortunately we opened them all we designed them in such a way that when you walked in the old days, a takeaway, all you saw was a counter and nothing else.
Yeah.
We opened the shops up and we put all the equipment right there in front of the customer, so that when they come in, they could actually see everybody in action.
Fish and chips being made in front of
That's
them.
right.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the things that we invented.
Uh-huh.
I would go so far as to say that would be true. The other thing, for example, when my father opened the Sunday garden, that was the highlight of my situation.
Yeah.
It was called the Sunday Garden, Sundae,
Uh-huh.
as
Very clever.
Ice Cream Sunday. Yeah. And it was very interesting and very exciting.
You've obviously got a strong entrepreneurial spirit as well.
Yes.
You mentioned all the ideas and things that you've opened and things that you've tried. How important is it to maintain that as well, whether it's coming up with new flavours or new business opportunities? Do you think, Daniela?
This is more than Daniela's.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to be the top of the tree, so it's really important to be on top of MPD and know the latest trends coming through. So yeah, that's very important.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's said that family businesses have an advantage over non-family businesses because they're there for the longer term. Like we've heard from your story, they tend to be more embedded in their communities, and because of that, they take more of a long-term view than, obviously profit is important, but that short-termism. Do you think that's true for you folk? Do you think that's true for the Morellis, that you're there for the long term in Portrush, in Port Stewart, in Coleraine? That's where you're rooted and that's where you always want to be rooted.
I'm sure there'll be somebody after the next generation to run things.
For as long as it's in our control.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as you're there and as long as you have family to take over, you'll always be there. Just coming into land now, and we've talked lots about your story. How important in this day and age is your story for connecting with your customers, which is ultimately who you're here to serve?
I'll give you one example. I remember working behind the counter, making up Sundays on a very busy day in the summer. And I recognized some of my customers from the year before on the queue, waiting to come to be served. And I realized the person didn't like cream on their ice cream. So by the time he reached the position that I was in, his Sunday was ready. And he said to me, "How did you know I didn't, I ordered this type of Sunday and that I didn't like cream?" And they appreciated that.
The personal touch.
Yes, because I think that was very important for us. Most of us as a family all worked behind the counter at one time or another. And we made a lot of friends that way. And hopefully a lot of people came back to see us again.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. You mentioned the challenging times, and obviously we've emerged from the pandemic and we've got challenges around costs and access to talent. What more can be done generally to help support family businesses like yourselves that are the fabric and are the heartbeat of the community? Do you
I think the first thing they could do is cut the VAT down.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I can't understand. I mean, we always say that ice cream is a particularly different item. I mean, it's a sweet. It shouldn't be taxed the way it is. So much so that our friends down south only pay a fraction of what we pay in VAT. But the British government has decided to tax us to the full extent. I think that's a hell of a tax.
Okay. And
It'll make a big difference if they cut it down to about 8 or 9%, something like that.
Let's put that in the mix, shall we?
Yeah.
Danielle, you mentioned challenges around access to talent and access to staff. What can we do? What is it, the nature of the industry particularly, or is there anything in particular can be done to support the next generation seeing perhaps, cafes, retail as more viable careers, or what kind of skill set are you looking for that just isn't there?
Yeah, I guess some more communication about the the advantages of working in the industry, because there are many rewarding careers in the industry, but I guess it's not one that young people want to follow for. Yeah, I mean, everyone knows it's hard work, it's no secret, but I think the rewards outweigh the bad things about the industry. But there's so many different careers in it as well, and within it. And like when you look at Loughrea College, it's such a brilliant facility up there, and it's, you know, it's so undersubscribed. So I guess just putting it out there that there are very worthwhile career paths there.
Fantastic.
There's also no doubt that modern technology has made the running of the business so much easier. So that's why we have so much opposition. We had to do everything from scratch. You know, like our products were all, we used to go to the farms and buy the potatoes. We used to go down to the quay and select the fish. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, of course.
It comes pre-packed, and some cases actually half cooked already.
Yeah. Easier in a sense, but then easier
Yeah.
for your competitors
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, listen, last word from you. What's the best thing about being a Morelli and the best thing about being a family business?
Well, family business is amazing when I think about the way it started with my parents, and then carrying on along the line with the 3 sons, and they divided up and they got married, and so I think there's a lot to be said about that. And family businesses are recognized by the public as being some place that they can trust to come into. Where we excel in quality and cleanliness, and also, you know, being able to project ourselves towards our customers and make them feel at home.
Absolutely. Thank you. Daniela, thank you, Nino.
No problem.
Folks, story packed full of flavour, I'm sure you'll agree, and I hope you enjoyed that first episode, and tune in for the next here on Faces of Family Business.